Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on a journey into, well, a truly foundational text, the Bhagavad Gita. Think of it as this sparkling essence distilled from the huge ocean of the Mahābhārata. It's this concise yet really profound presentation of Vedic wisdom that, still speaks to us today.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we're not just doing a general overview, we're zeroing in on a specific and I think incredibly valuable guide. Swami Dayananda Saraswati's Introduction to Bhagavad-Gītā.
Ah, okay.
This is right from volume 1 of his big home study course, the one published by Arshavidya Gurukulam. It's like having a really experienced guide point out the key landmarks before you even start climbing the mountain.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Let's unpack this roadmap then.
Yeah.
What was Swami Dayananda really trying to achieve with this introduction? What are the sort of the central things he wanted to get across right from the start?
Well, Swami Dayananda really aimed to create a clear and welcoming doorway into the Gita. His main goal was essentially to lay out the Gita's core vision and touch upon its most significant ideas, even specific verses sometimes, but in a way that makes them, easily understandable. It's about taking away any intimidation factor and setting the stage for a deeper, more personal connection with the text itself.
So giving us the lay of the land before we get lost in the details, what's the very first thing he highlights for us?
He starts by really establishing the Gita's status. He calls it an ancient sacred book, placing it essentially on the same level as the Vedas in terms of its authority and its importance.
Okay, that's significant.
Yeah, and right away he encourages us, you, the listener, anyone coming to this, to approach it with an open mind. That's crucial, he says, to really grasp both the words on the page and their deeper meaning, even when inevitably we run into different commentaries or interpretations.
That makes sense. Setting the right frame of mind first. What's the next key insight he offers as we prepare to study the Gita?
Okay, this is where it gets, I think, really interesting and very personally relevant. Swami Dayananda states that the primary reason, the main reason to study the Gita is to understand yourself.
Yourself, not just philosophy.
Exactly. It's not just abstract concepts. It's about your own inner reality. He suggests that even parts of the Gita that might seem confusing or maybe even contradictory at first will become clear as you develop a better understanding of your true nature, your svarupa, as it's sometimes called.
Svarupa.
Yeah, think of it as the essential you, kind of beneath all the roles and temporary identities we have. This self-knowledge, he argues, is the real key that unlocks the Gita's wisdom.
Yeah, okay. That completely reframes it. It's not just about learning about the Gita, but using it as a tool, almost a mirror for self-discovery.
Precisely.
He also talks about the setting, doesn't he, within the Mahābhārata?
Yes, he does. He reminds us about the big picture, the epic narrative where Vyāsa presents Krishna as the Lord. But Swami Dayananda makes a really helpful, accessible point here. He says, look, whether you see Krishna as, the divine Lord incarnate, or maybe just as a very wise teacher within this story, the fundamental message of the Gita for you, the student, it stays the same. The core wisdom kind of transcends how you might frame Krishna's specific role.
That's incredibly useful, especially for people coming from different backgrounds or beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond these foundational ideas, does Swamiji give any, practical advice on how we should actually study the Gita?
Oh, absolutely. He gets very down to earth with recommendations. He suggests, for instance, a daily study practice, ideally after your morning routine, to carve out that dedicated time and space.
Yeah.
He also really encourages forming study groups. He highlights how valuable it is to discuss ideas with others, learn from their questions and insights.
It makes sense, learning together.
Yeah. And he also advises, writing down any questions that pop up as you study so you can actively look for clarification later. And crucially, he emphasizes reflection.
Reflection.
Yeah, just taking the time to really sit with the material, digest it, contemplate it, not just rushing through.
Those are really tangible steps anyone can take.
Yeah.
He also mentions the nature of the course materials themselves.
Yeah, he does. He explains that his home study course material is based on transcriptions of his actual teachings. So the aim is for clarity, and it allows you, the learner, to go at your own pace. He also points out that the course includes the Gita-dhanam, these beautiful verses that are basically in praise of the Gita.
Oh, lovely.
And the course gives you not just the meaning, but also guidance on how to chant them, which adds, another whole dimension to engaging with the text.
So a really well-rounded, multi-layered approach to study. Let's shift to some of the core concepts he introduces. He talks about the three pararthas, doesn't he? those basic human goals.
Yes. Swami Dayananda brings up the traditional concept of the three paramarthas. There's artha, which is about, security, material well-being. Then kama, our desires, pleasures, enjoyment. And then dharma, which is often translated as duty or righteousness, basically our ethical compass.
Okay.
And he emphasizes that there's a kind of natural hierarchy here for human growth and maturity. Dharma, he explains, really holds the primary spot because it provides the ethical structure for a meaningful life.
It's the foundation.
It's the foundation. And then he introduces moksha, or liberation, as the fourth and ultimate goal. But he stresses that reaching for moksha effectively requires a certain level of inner maturity and understanding that you cultivate by living according to dharma first.
I see.
So it's not just about, chasing wealth or pleasure indiscriminately. It's realizing that living ethically, following dharma, actually sets the stage for a more fulfilling life overall, and eventually even for liberation.
So dharma isn't just a list of rules. It's a necessary groundwork for deeper growth. He also dives into ignorance, ajnana, which is such a central idea in many traditions.
Exactly. Ignorance, ajnana, is presented as the root cause, really, of our suffering and all the mistakes we make in understanding ourselves and the world.
The root cause.
Yeah. And to make this clear, Swamiji uses that really powerful analogy, the one about mistaking a rope for a snake in dim light.
Ah, yes.
The problem isn't the rope, right? It's our lack of clear seeing, our ignorance, that creates the fear and the completely wrong conclusion about what's actually there. He really underscores that only true knowledge, vidya, can get rid of this ignorance and the suffering that comes with it. Just think about it. How often do we react based on, incomplete information or just misinterpreting someone's intentions? That's ajnana in action right there in daily life.
That rope and snake analogy, it really does hit home. Makes this big idea of ignorance feel very concrete. Now, something I found really thought-provoking was his point about believers and non-believers.
Yes. This is so insightful, I think. Swami Dayananda takes a very inclusive stance here. He says quite clearly that whether you believe in God or the Vedas, or maybe you don't, that shouldn't stop you from exploring the Gita's wisdom.
Really?
Yeah. His focus is totally on understanding the text itself, the teachings, on their own terms. He does mention the traditional distinction, between an astika, someone who accepts the Vedas as a valid means of knowledge, a pramaka, and an astika, someone who doesn't.
Okay.
But he clarifies that the Gita's core wisdom, its insights into the human condition, are relevant and understandable regardless of where you're starting from in terms of belief. It's about the message itself.
That really opens the door, doesn't it? Makes the Gita feel much more universally accessible.
It does.
And the Gita has that compound title, Brahmavidya and Yoga Shastra. What does Swamiji tell us about that significant name?
He unpacks it for us, showing its depth. Brahmavidya, he explains, literally means the knowledge of Brahman.
Brahman, the ultimate reality.
Exactly. The ultimate underlying reality of everything. It's like trying to understand the fundamental isness behind all experience. Yoga Shastra, then, is the teaching, the jastra, about the practical means, the yoga, to realize that knowledge.
So the how-to.
Kind of, yeah. And this includes both ways of engaging. Plati, which is action, engaging with the world, and nihiti, which is more about renunciation or withdrawal. But, and this key, he says, both paths need to be grounded in a clear understanding of the self. So the Gita isn't just philosophical speculation about ultimate truth. It's also a practical guide on the path to actually experiencing that truth in your own life.
Activity and renunciation, both rooted in self-knowledge.
Ew.
That's a really powerful connection.
Yeah.
He also talks about the guru, the teacher. What's his perspective on that relationship?
Swami Dayananda describes a guru as someone who is either, seriously seeking self-knowledge themselves or maybe has already attained it, and crucially is free from other major worldly obligations that would distract them. He really emphasizes how important it is to approach a guru with humility, with shraddha, faith, trust, and a genuine, intense desire to learn.
Right.
But he also makes it very clear. Guidance from a qualified teacher is just one part of the equation. Your own dedicated effort, your own consistent study is absolutely essential. A guru can light the way, but you have to do the walking. It's a partnership.
That makes perfect sense. It's not passive. And he also emphasizes questioning, which feels so important for real learning, right?
Yes, he does, but with a really important distinction. He stresses that the questioning should come from a genuine desire to understand better.
Not just to argue.
Exactly. Not just out of, habitual doubt or wanting to pick things apart just for the sake of it. When you ask questions sincerely, seeking clarity, it becomes this incredibly powerful tool.
Right.
It helps establish knowledge based on real understanding, not just, blind belief or taking someone's word for it.
So it's constructive questioning aimed at clarity.
Precisely.
And building on that, he talks about the need for inquiry, jijiansa.
Yeah.
How does that fit in?
This touches on the Gita's relationship with other key texts, particularly the Upanishads. Swami Dayananda explains that the Gita really encourages us to inquire deeply, that's the jitansa, into the truths that are already laid out in the Upanishads.
Okay.
The goal of this inquiry is to arrive at a clear, consistent understanding and to avoid, superficial readings or getting caught up in apparent contradictions. He uses a wonderful image here.
Yeah.
He describes the Gita as being like a mirror that reflects the teachings of the Upanishads, helping us see our own true nature and the nature of reality much more clearly, more accurately.
A mirror reflecting the Upanishads. I
Yeah.
like that. That's a very helpful way to see it.
Right.
He also mentions Vyāsa, the sage who compiled the Mahābhārata. What's his role here, according to Swamiji?
Swami Dayananda generally views Vyasa as primarily a meticulous compiler and a faithful reporter of ancient wisdom. Yeah. Specifically for the Gita, Vyasa is the one who carefully records and presents this incredibly profound dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna. He highlights Vyasa's amazing skill in weaving this deep philosophical subject matter right into the grand sweeping story of the Mahābhārata epic. So Vyasa is like our conduit, bringing this ancient conversation to us.
Our reporter bringing us this essential dialogue. Okay, now we get to the real heart of it. The central teaching, the main subject matter of the Gita itself. What does Swamiji say that is?
The core theme, the absolute essence, according to Swami Dayananda, is the nectar of non-duality, Advaita.
Non-duality.
Yes, and this understanding, he explains, is incredibly powerful. Why? Because it has the potential to remove fear right at its source.
How so?
Well, fear, he suggests, fundamentally arises from perceiving duality, from that feeling of separation. Separation between me and you, me and the world, me and the ultimate reality.
Ah, okay.
And he brings in that beautiful milk analogy again here, where the Upanishads are the cows providing the milk of wisdom.
Right, Arjuna the calf.
Arjuna's the calf needing the nourishment, and Krishna is the expert who milks that knowledge for Arjuna, and by extension for all of us. This nectar of non-duality dissolves that illusion of separation that causes fear.
The nectar of non-duality dissolving fear.
Mm.
That's a profoundly hopeful message. And he stresses that this isn't just tied to one specific time or place.
Exactly. Swami Dayananda really emphasizes the timelessness of the Gita's core teachings. They aren't just about the Kurukshetra war or Arjuna's specific problem back then. No, they offer enduring wisdom about the fundamental nature of the self, which is relevant in any era, including ours. He keeps coming back to this idea of the nectar, the amata of this knowledge. It nourishes us, brings lasting happiness because it helps us see beyond the constant change of life, and even helps overcome the fear of death itself.
Timeless wisdom for our own lives today. Now, obviously, we can't talk Gita without mentioning the setting of the Kurukshetra battlefield. How does Swamiji frame that dramatic context?
He gives a concise but really important overview of that setting. He paints the picture. The battlefield of Kurukshetra is the backdrop for this profound teaching. He names the key players the Kauravas, led by the jealous Duryodhana, and the Pandavas, including the hero Arjuna. He briefly touches on why they're there, Duryodhana's envy, that disastrous dice game that pushed everything to the brink. He sets the stage by explaining, okay, war has been declared, and this intense crisis is what leads to Arjuna's breakdown and Krishna stepping in to teach.
So this context of immense conflict, a whole kingdom on the edge, and right there in the middle of it all is Arjuna's very personal, very emotional crisis.
Yes, and Swami Dayananda describes it vividly. Arjuna's deep grief, his complete refusal to fight. And it's not just, fear of battle. It's a profound moral and emotional collapse. Caused by his compassion, seeing his own relatives, teachers, friends on both sides, and this intense confusion about what the right thing to do, what Dharma actually is in this horrific situation. He's just overwhelmed by the potential loss, the moral conflict, and that's what drives him to finally turn to Krishna, his charioteer, his friend, and ask for real guidance.
Yeah.
It's actually quite powerful, isn't it, that even this great warrior Arjuna could be so completely paralyzed by doubt. It makes his journey of learning feel so much more human, relatable.
Absolutely. His friend and charioteer, who then formally becomes his teacher. Which brings us back, really, to Swamiji's point about the importance of the guru.
Exactly. Swami Dayananda points out how the Gita itself highlights this. Arjuna doesn't just ask for battle strategy. He explicitly says, I am your disciple, please teach me, effectively accepting Krishna as his guru.
He surrenders as a student.
He surrenders as a student, seeking profound wisdom about life, death, duty, everything. It just underscores that essential need Swamiji mentioned. Approaching these deep teachings requires humility, surrender, and a real willingness to learn from someone qualified, someone who has navigated these truths.
So Swami Dayananda's introduction, it really does lay an incredible foundation, not just for understanding the what of the Gita, but the how to approach it, the mindset, the tools, the right kind of questions to ask.
Precisely. He sets it up as this ancient, sacred text aiming primarily at self-knowledge. He places it in its epic context, gives practical study advice, introduces core ideas like the Pura Arthas and Ajana, stresses its universal relevance, clarifies its rich title, and underlines the vital roles of both the teacher and our own sincere inquiry. It covers so much ground.
It really is a comprehensive and actually quite encouraging introduction. It feels designed to make this profound, sometimes intimidating text feel accessible and relevant for us right now. So what's the key takeaway then for you, the listener, hearing about this introduction?
I think Swami Dayananda's introduction is just a powerful reminder that the Bhagavad Gita isn't some dusty old relic. It offers truly timeless, practical wisdom. It speaks directly to the big challenges and questions we all face in our lives, regardless of our personal beliefs or background. It's really an invitation, isn't it? An invitation to start a deeply personal journey of self-discovery with these profound teachings as a guide.
A personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, here's a final thought for you to maybe mull over. Considering Swami Dayananda's strong emphasis on understanding the self, how might exploring the Gita actually shift your perspective on the challenges you're facing right now? And maybe what hidden ignorances, those unquestioned assumptions or blind spots, might be subtly shaping how you see yourself and the world around you. Something powerful to consider until our next deep dive.